It's just a few minutes past, 11 minutes to be precise, past the hour mark of 10. So, just to remind you of what the time is, and we apologize for coming slightly behind schedule. Cooking the kind of a menu we intend to serve you this morning takes a bit of time. But we, all the same, like they say in show business, it's better late than never. It's about that time where we bring you Rapid TV's continuously evolving socio-political and general interest show we call Korero. I am Nkamian John the Beloved, also known as the Controversial. Now, Wednesday, June 12, 2024, made it exactly 28 years since the historic June 12 election in our great nation, Nigeria. The date has in the past 2 years been symbolically accepted as Democracy Day, marking what was believed to be the fairest ever national election in the history of our nation. It is widely acknowledged as the most creditable election ever in Africa's largest democracy, Nigeria. Now, despite all pre-election gimmicks and gimmickry at instigating violence through general blackouts, fuel shortages, and all sorts of provocations, Nigerians largely turned out to vote to disregard ethnic, religious, and social divides. But the outcome of the election was never officially released, as it was suddenly annulled by President, or will I say, then head of state, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida's administration. The major character of the political drama, Bashorun MKO Abiola, a philanthropist, businessman, and politician, was later arrested and detained a little over 1 year later as he struggled to claim his mandate. Now, most largely focused on Hope 93, the election slogan of Abiola, whose statue and achievements as well as influence cuts across all divides and was seen as a unifier, especially when the topic shifts to love for the masses, philanthropy, and of course, the opium of the people. He died under unclear circumstances on July 7, 1998. Even nearly 3 decades after his death, the clamor for the recognition of that struggle remains pretty strong. June 12 was only officially and nationally accepted as Democracy Day as a replacement to May 29th. Now, incidentally, the former May 29th also marked the first declaration of a state of emergency in the country when at the Federal House, Prime Minister Sir Abubakar moved the resolution for the declaration of a state of emergency in the Western region. Now, as we bask in the euphoria of Nigeria's 25 years of uninterrupted democratic rule, let us again recall our journey to becoming Africa's longest lasting democracy.
Nigeria, the giant of Africa, a nation of over 200 million people, rich in culture, resources, and history. Since gaining independence from British colonial rule in 1960, Nigeria has embarked on a tumultuous journey towards establishing a stable democracy. October 1st, 1960, Nigeria steps into the light of independence.
Today is Independence Day, the 1st of October 1960, and Nigeria is now indeed an independent sovereign nation.
The promise of self-rule ignites hope and ambition amongst its diverse populace. The first Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, symbolizes this newfound freedom.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities.
The First Republic, led by Prime Minister Balewa and President Nnamdi Azikiwe, was marked by regionalism and ethnic tension. The crack in the democratic foundation widened, leading to Nigeria's first military coup in January 1966.
The federal military government in Nigeria has taken over the administration of the country. The functions of the federal military government will be exercised by the Supreme Military Council, and details of which will be announced later.
The cabinet decided to transfer power to him as the general officer commanding the armed forces. It means an abdication of power, and it means then the suspension of the president, the prime minister, the 4 regional governors, and the 4 regional premiers. In other words, the civilian authorities have found it impossible to maintain law and order, and have transferred same to the military authorities until law and order can be maintained.
A cycle of coups ensued, with General Yakubu Gowon taking power in 1966, followed by General Murtala Mohammed in 1975 and General Olusegun Obasanjo in 1976. Each leader brought their own policies and vision.
In a few aspects of our national endeavor, is the pressure for modernization so intense today as in our aviation industry. Those involved in or familiar with the industry know that aviation is a growing, fast-changing, and time-saving industry. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure and honor in declaring this airport formally open for the greater progress of Nigeria, closer understanding between mankind, and greater glory of God. Thank you very much.
1979 marked a return to civilian rule with the elections of Shehu Shagari. The Second Republic was born.
I, Sheikh Usman Aliyu Shagari, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful, bear true allegiance, and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Shehu Shagari's administration focused on economic development, but rampant corruption and mismanagement led to disillusionment. By 1983, the military intervened again, with Major General Muhammadu Buhari taking control. Buhari's reign was characterized by a strict anti-corruption campaign, but also by severe human rights abuses. In 1985, General Ibrahim Babangida ousted Buhari. Babangida's tenure was marked by economic reforms, including the Structural Adjustment Program, aimed at reviving Nigeria's economy. Babangida's promise of a transition to civilian rule culminated in the annulled June 12, 1993 election, widely regarded as free and fair, won by Moshood Abiola, popularly known as MKO.
It was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
It is incredible. In view of all this, I find the conclusion unfortunate but inescapable that the federal military government is guilty of bad faith, pure and simple. No one has accused me of any offense against any known electoral law or regulation. The people of this country went to polls on Saturday, June 12, 1993, and without let or hindrance chose me as their president. Didn't they?
This annulment sparked widespread protest and civilian unrest. In 1993, General Sani Abacha seized power. His reign was notorious for its brutality and suppression of dissent. The execution of activist Ken Saro-Wiwa and others drew international condemnation. Abacha's sudden death in 1998 paved the way for General Abdulsalami Abubakar, who initiated the transition to democracy, culminating in the 1999 elections. Nigeria returned to civilian rule in 1999 with the election of former military leader Olusegun Obasanjo. This marked the beginning of the Fourth Republic, characterized by the attempt to stabilize the political landscape and revive the economy. The Fourth Republic witnessed the peaceful transition of power through successive elections despite challenges such as electoral fraud, terrorism, and economic instability.
As your president to head a democratic civilian administration, I believe that this is what God Almighty has ordained for me and for my beloved country, Nigeria, and its people. I accept this destiny in all humility and with the full belief that with the backing and support of our people, we shall not fail.
Each leader brought distinct policies. Yar'Adua focused on rules of law and amnesty in Niger Delta, Jonathan on electoral reforms and economic growth, and Buhari on anti-corruption and security. Today, Nigeria stands at a crossroad. Despite progress, challenges remain: corruption, insecurity, economic instability, and demands for better governance.
Ahmed of the ANPC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
The youth are increasingly vocal, demanding accountability and transparency.
A dúpẹ́ torí pé Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí a wà nínú ìjọba àwa ara wa. Inú mi dùn tí kì í ṣe pé bóyá àwọn ológun ló ń darí wa lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí. Àgbọ̀nra wa yé. Ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀pọ̀ tí mo kàn wò pé yẹ kí n sọ tó ń dùn wá gan ni pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwa tá a jẹ́ aráàlú tá a sí ní ipò àwọn òṣèlú tó ga à ń jìyà gan.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country, being faithful and committed to the economic development and prosperity of every one of you.
Nigeria's journey towards democracy is ongoing. The resilience and determination of its people continue to shape its path.
Today, I urge you, as Nigeria's foremost private sector think tank and policy advocacy group, to go much further than you have done before. Bring your ideas, bring your leadership, be highly inquisitive, and bring your capital.
The world watches as this African giant strives to fulfill its democratic promise.
If you don't really know when the rain or where the rain starts beating you, you probably will not know, the point where you took shelter. For those of us who were around when we were having the military regime, during the time of the struggle, you ask yourself, why were people trooping out to the streets? Why were the civil society? Why were journalists? Why were lecturers? Why were the students then demonstrating and campaigning, asking for civil rule? There were some basic limitations. There were things that the citizen, that was going on that the citizen do not want. People would want a situation where they were part of government, where their views will also be considered, where their opinions will also be respected, where they will participate in what is happening around them, where the press will be free, to either criticize, to comment, to say, or to speak out on the ills of the society. A situation where decrees are not being rolled out on a daily basis, trying to stop or inhibit people from doing what they consider to be their constitutional right. Now, the question is, some of those things that we were clamoring for, are we getting them? My answer is yes, to a very large extent. We are moving, and I must also point out that this is a process.
After 25 years.
It's a process, yes. Because some of us, because if you look at some of those things that were happening during those periods, today, you say whatever you want to say. Today, you can even, some people stand up even in the public space and criticize the president, the vice president, the governors, people who are in governance. People stand up and tell you what is not being done and the way they would expect it to go. And also, governments sometimes, or most of the times, are also sensitive to some of those complaints. And some areas they try to, amend and take the other side and all that and all that. So, for me, I would say that, yes, we are moving, but we have not gotten to where we're going to.
Would have gone far, His Excellency.
Yes, I agree with you. It depends on barometer. It depends on what you want to use, what you're using to measure. Sometimes, some people would want to say, because democracy in Nigeria is not as what is being practiced in either in United States of America or in UK or whatever, or those advanced democracies. But the question is, how long did it take them to get to that level? In as much, I would not expect Nigeria to take that same route, because there are so many things that are supposed to hasten the process, so that we don't need 700 and something years before we get to where they are. But the fact of the matter is that we are moving. But I will also encourage us as a people that it's high time that we hasten, because our people are in a hurry to see a full-blown democracy in this country.
I would say, quite frankly, that the present administration in my own judgment, has been the most progressive. I have witnessed all the administrations from the time Abia State was created up till now. The present administration appears to have achieved far beyond what several other administrations tried to achieve. This administration has demystified governance in the sense that things we thought were impossible are possible. Not just possible, easy. In the past, you literally had to plead and beg for your salaries, not to talk about pensions and gratuities. But today, pensions are paid as and when due. The lives that have been saved by that singular action of governance is unquantifiable. Today, civil servants can plan. In the past, it looked as if it was a favor that people were paid their salaries when they had actually worked for such salaries. And we thought it couldn't be done. But today we are seeing, by the 27th of every month, salaries are paid.
From the dawn of independence to the present day, Nigeria's quest for democracy has been faced with trials and triumphs. Yet, in the spirit of unity and perseverance, Nigeria marches on, ever hopeful for a brighter democratic future. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria and happy Democracy Day.
11 versions.
All right, all right. That documentary there put together by Rapid TV. A walk down memory lane, you could say. It's still Rapid TV's evolving social-political and general interest show we call Korero. I am Kamyang John, the beloved, also known as the controversial. And just to let you know that the show is live and interactive. So like I like to say, even when the show is off the air, the conversation continues online. Okay, so do well to be part of our growing online digital community simply by following and liking Rapid TV. Remember, we are at Official Rapid TV, at Official Rapid TV on Facebook, on X, formerly Twitter, and on IG, Instagram. And of course, we're also on LinkedIn and TikTok. So check us out and be part of the ongoing conversation. Remember, we are basking in the euphoria of 25 years of uninterrupted democratic rule. Yes, and that's the longest as far as the black continent of Africa is concerned. So yes, you could say Nigeria in some way is leading by example and is still remaining a relevant point as far as democratic rule on the black continent is concerned. Now, let's talk about the only man who was ever bestowed with the title of Africa's Pillar of Sports. And I'm talking about Chief Basharu MKO Abiola. Now, his interests cut across many sports and covered many African countries. So that naturally explains why he was bestowed that title, African Pillar of Sports, not Nigerian pillar, but African pillar of sports. He sponsored various sporting activities in Nigeria and 14 other African countries, among them Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Zambia, and Tunisia. Such was his unparalleled support for sport that no other African has been able to fill his position as Africa's first pillar of sports since 1980, when the then African Sports Journalists Union, ASJU, bestowed the honor on him. Now, on January 11th, 1992, in Dakar, Senegal, he entered the African Football Hall of Fame when the sports philanthropist extraordinaire was honored by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, with an award of Order of Merit in gold. This is the Confederation's highest honor. Now, Abiola, at the occasion, donated the CAF Cup trophy endowed with $100,000 US. Not many deeply involved in business and activity and political activities have the kind of devotion that Abiola had for sports. He lived in virtually everyone's life until an adventure into politics sadly cut his life short. Joining me to discuss why 31 years after, no one has been able to replicate MKO Abiola's feat of becoming Africa's pillar of sports. It's great to have you, my friend, brother, colleague. We go way back.
Of course.
Dr. Michael Enahoro.
It's a pleasure.
You know, it
sounds weird, right?
Because we are close to you, just call you Mike.
Of course,
but,
please go ahead, call me Mike.
The man has double honors. He's a double doctor. I don't know how to write that one. Doctor.
One doc is enough. Just call me
It's great
Mike.
to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
And of course, happy Democracy Day. I know it was yesterday, but we're still basking in the euphoria of 25 years of uninterrupted democracy.
Yeah.
But there's no way we can celebrate Democracy Day
Yes.
without talking about Chief Basharu MKO Abiola.
Right.
And one of the areas he touched the most
Yes.
was the area of sports.
Yes.
As of yesterday, so I was talking to some of our colleagues, and we were going back to the days of Abiola Babes and a whole lot of, senior colleagues who began to share their experience.
Yes.
Those of them who had face contact with the late MKO Abiola and talked about how he changed their lives, what he contributed to their careers as sports journalists at the time.
Yes.
But the big question is, in 31 years, there are a lot of big names in sports across Africa.
Yes.
Including the current CAF president.
Yes.
Masepe.
Masepe, yes.
He's a big gun. I mean, he's got money, he's got investments,
Chiefs,
and all of that. But yet, no one has been able to fill the shoes of Chief MKO Abiola. Why?
It's the personality of who he is. I'll take you back to my personal experience. I was a kid who was playing football in the Lagos Divisional Football League. Back in those days, they call it LATFA.
LATFA.
Back in the day. And I was in secondary school. I was playing for security, minting, and printing. And we were in Division 2. And we were playing the Lagos Challenge Cup against Concord.
Then Concord.
Then Concord newspapers. And the entire team sort of kind of gave up that if Chief showed up, we had lost. And I looked
at his presence.
Yes, I was 15. I was 15. I had just come back from camp at the Golden Eaglet tryouts. And I was just like, I just came back from Egypt and I played for the national team. And I'm looking at these people, I'm saying, what does this man bring? My father reached Concord. We understand who Concord is. I knew MKO Abiola by name. And MKO did not only come. He dragged Chief Alex Akinyele.
Former Minister of Information.
Then Alex Akinyele was working in the Sports Council, what we call the National Sports Council. He dragged Chief Alex Akinyele and they came to Abalti Barracks at 2:30 in the afternoon and the man just sat there watching. We lost to Concord by 4-0.
Wow.
And he came over, he didn't congratulate his team, he came over to our team. And then he gave every player on the security minting and printing team 1,000 naira each.
At that time.
At that time.
It was almost equivalent to 1 million naira.
I was blown away. I was just blown away. It was 1,000 naira. He said, guys, you played well. I want that boy and that boy and that boy. Coach, take them and put them, let them try out. They gave my boys hell. These are young kids. How old are you? I said 15. How old are you? 17. How old are you? 19. He just told the coach, look at this. And he was talking to Alex Akinyele. Alex was like, claimed me quickly. This is one of our own. You have to take this one out. This is one of our own. He just came back from Egypt and all of that. And so he looked and said, okay, 1,000. This was not promised to give.
Right there.
Right there.
Right
he
there.
Put his hand in his pocket and went around everybody and gave the coach 3,000. And the bus driver got a whole 500 naira. And this one went there and went there. And it was the newly minted naira note with Herbert Macaulay. So you can imagine when you had, stack
of that kind of money.
Of that kind of money. It was 1 naira and it was 1,000. So you had a
bundle
stack
in
your hand. He was just dipping his hands like that and it was 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. I freaked out. And I said to myself, oh God, who's this man? And he talked to us. We just lost 4-0. And all his team members were on their bus, carefully seated, and everybody was just there. These were ex-internationals. These were advanced players. We got knocked in the head big time. And we were so happy when they left and went to Ogun State and said, yeah, thank you, God. We don't have to deal with this at least twice a season. No, so when you meet a guy like that, and then he doesn't just cut across football. There was the story of Chioma Ajunwa.
Yes.
From winning the All-Africa Games. And he says, where do you live? That was the only question he asked. Where do you live? And he says, no, you can't live there if you want a gold medal. You need to go there, and we need to build you a house. Then you talk about the customs boxer, Joe Lasisi. Training camp, Jerry Okorodudu, and a whole lot of sports people in boxing, Obisi Anwakpa, and all these people, Davis Inande. These were guys that got training camp grants from him. Not just Nigerians. Not just Nigerians. He was ahead of Mo Ibrahim in terms of cutting across, and it wasn't just sports alone, it was across economic business channels. Africans going across to Egypt to support CAF in infrastructure build out of offices because the Cameroonian Issa Hayatou told him we needed an endowment to do something in CAF. Black Africa was his central point. Black Africa was his central point.
He was a pan-African.
He would. I also had an opportunity later in life, just before he went into politics, when I came back from America, to listen to him speak about Nigeria and the vision of what Nigeria should be in terms of sports. Sports as a vehicle, an economic generation vehicle. He proved it with Abiola Babes in the way him and John Mastrodes were the ones that gave semblance to how
our
sportsmen and women should be treated. The care, the support, the training, the structure, having a structured way of treating sportsmen and women. And so it was always easy for our country to fall back on him. After we lost the 1982 World Cup qualifiers, he was right there. A lot of the guys, how many times did he pay for tickets for Nigerian foreign-based players to come home? A lot of us forgot about Sam Okwaraji's death. Who picked up the bills? Who picked up the bills? So it was someone we got used to leveraging on because he always made himself available. And it wasn't just for Nigeria alone.
Across Africa.
It was Africa. It was a Pan-African. He was always in the air, flying, going to different conferences, meetings, sports related. So when you call him a pillar of sports in Africa, compared to other millionaires who have done very well in their countries of residence and countries of nationality, you have a man who will go to that same country with those same millionaires and still do in those countries. Regardless, he didn't care who was, as long as it was sports, as long as a black man or woman was doing it, he wanted to be part of that success story. So that's why MKO was different. He was miles ahead in his time in terms of philanthropical engagement. He was, if you wrote to MKO, even if your small boys club was in the middle of nowhere, and he read the letter,
he will find you.
He will find you. And he will show up in person. All over Nigeria. He will show up in person. We forget that his chieftaincy titles were elaborate from across Nigerian
and Africa.
So this was somebody who bestowed upon himself a task. And he ended up, he was not the most savvy communicator. He was a straight to the point, gruff guy. He had too many things going on, so he never wasted time in, it was direct, to the point.
Just deal with it, get it off the table, move to the next one.
Next one, action. And this was somebody who had done this as a habit.
What is the difference between an MKO Abiola and a Aliko Dangote who wants to buy Arsenal and a Tony Elumelu that had to be encouraged by our current sports minister, Ewan Eno, to begin to look at buying into the league?
It's drive. It's drive. MKO didn't wait for them. He was a pace
Once he
setter.
saw something,
he was a pace setter. He was a pace setter. He forced our league to be better. As a private investor, He forced our league those days to be better. Before Ufote Kaite wrote that sports clubs should not, federal government sports clubs should not, because invest money in sporting activities. You had an MKO who, him,
John
Mastrodes, Flash Flamingo,
Flash Flamingos, yeah.
The guys up north, Zeb guy and all the Kwara guys,
Yes.
and the Bauchi guys, they followed MKO's direction. MKO decided to be a pace setter. I like football. I want to be part of football. I have my team. I am going to kick my team out. If the referee comes in there, MKO would attend a disciplinary hearing committee of NFFO. He is not ready to go and... No, you guys...
Despite his status.
Yes, I will go there and I will have that meeting and I will sit down with you people and I will tell you that the referee was biased against my team because of me being a private investor. And I'm going to be there. So engagement is the key. He didn't wait for the league to be formed fresh. He didn't wait for the league to have all the parameters of everything that had to be done. He came in and said, this is the standard for my club. This is how we're going to play. This is how we're going to deal with it. This is the kind of players I want, coaching staff, support staff. And I am going to play my game. The rest of you, don't abuse the game. These are the 16 rules of football. I will respect them, and I want you guys to respect them equally. If you go against that, I will come down to wherever you are, sit down in that disciplinary hearing, and make sure that you guys don't cheat my teams or influence results against me because I'm a private sector player. And that was the difference. Because when you start to drive that kind of development, you now see the entire body now begin to adjust. Imagine Aliko Anthony Elumelu owning teams in the MPFL today.
Yes.
Standards will rise by force. Standard will be forced to rise. The Enyimbas, the Enugu Rangers, all the teams, they will be forced to raise standard because these people will call you guys out. They're not just throwing money at this, they are involved. So you don't want to take on an Aliko. You don't want to come in and have a 17-minute extra time after the match is supposed to be done in 90 minutes. And you are now having 17 minutes of extra time where there are no injuries, there are no crowd problems. You don't end the match. If you do that twice for Aliko will come to the next game and sit down there. Which referee now wants to have Aliko on the stand and call a game for 17 minutes beyond its ending period? Those were the kinds of input. And because he was doing that, Leventis, they did well. They may not have won a lot. This is not MKO Abiola Babes. This was Leventis going. This was Rangers going to win the Cup, Winners' Cup. This was Bendel Insurance taking on 1994, going abroad and winning. This was because they had to go and play better. Abiola Babes went out there and did their thing. It was the Nigerian team. We never won, but we were always competitive. Because we kind of had a standard. And what did that do to our league? People went to the stadium. People enjoyed going to the stadium. People loved going to the stadium because they knew that the fairness was a presumed game. You had people like Linus Umba, a no-nonsense referee. He would chase you rather than you chase him. He would chase you. You had stars that were referees, that were linesmen, that were no-nonsense people that came in. Administrators began to come out. Commentators who flew all over the country were given. So his impact is not just him. It was the entire sporting situation. Abiola will go watch a boxing match in the middle of Ipetedo in Ogun State.
Yeah.
He will go watch a boxing match just because it's a Friday night and he happened to be in town and they said there was a boxing match. And he will go there and drop 10,000 naira for both pugilists to just cover their cost of coming to come and box for the 25 or 50 people that came to watch. The impact was that it raised the value of sporting engagement because he was involved. You do not want to be on his bad side.
You know, I was going to ask how much we've lost since his passing, but your last statements have more or less answered those questions. Sadly, we're really out of time.
Of course.
Like I like to say, time runs out on you when you're having discussions of national interest.
Of course.
But what would you say to the Elumelus, the Aliko Dangotes? What should they learn from MKO Abiola?
Don't complain. Stop complaining about what's wrong. You're smart man, you're gifted and you're endowed. The money you have, you're not going to take it the day you die. It's going to be ended. What endowment are you leaving? You want to get involved in sports? Roll up your sleeves. I know you guys are very busy gentlemen and you have a lot of things to do. Tony is doing an amazing job raising entrepreneurs across the world.
Yeah.
But if you love football and you like football, if Aliko has an inkling to buy 2.5% of Arsenal, take two teams. You're in Kogi State and your factory is in Kogi State. Give that stadium is not being used as much as possible. Buy a club. Aliko being in the MPFL, Tony Elumelu being in the MPFL, Rabiu being in the MPFL. That league is going to be comparable. The real owners of football clubs, who are the state governors, will stop not participating. They will participate. Even if it is wrestling or boxing or anyone you want to take it and be present. That's the difference between MKO. He took it and he was present. If Aliko gets a club in Nigeria today, I can bet you, and Aliko starts to attend matches in the local jazz stadium, I can bet you the value of the league, it will shoot up. Tony Elumelu goes to Lagos and watches games. Which referee wants to go and call it 22 minutes extra time after the game is after 90 minutes? You don't want to do that. And that becomes a yardstick that every time you go to Lagos, don't mess up. All the rubbish officials that come in and even your managers who are doing their silly games, they stop because they know the quality of the people on the stands can cost them their jobs 2 minutes after they do that shenanigans. So don't sit on the fence. Don't complain about things being bad. Get into it and change the game. Your presence enough is big enough to change the game. Whether it's boxing, Scrabble, wrestling, weightlifting, martial arts, MMA, be present. And that's the difference between MKO and all the big men in Nigeria today. He was present.
Mickey, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, John.
I am sure our viewers will be like, can they continue this conversation? We will another day.
Please,
we will. We will. My joy was how you were able to take us down memory lane and bring us back to today
and in the future
and the future and the future. Well, that's the much we can take on this edition of Korero. As I wrap up, we will continue to bask, as we continue to bask in the euphoria of celebrating Democracy Day. Let's us rededicate, and I mean everyone, from the Tony Elumelus, the Aliko Dangotes, down to the very last Nigerian. There's need for us to rededicate ourselves to building a nation of peace, prosperity, and most importantly, unity. Special thanks once again to Dr. Michael Enahoro.
It's a pleasure
for making our time to be my guest on today's edition of the show. As always, we'll keep our ears to the ground, Searchlight beamed on developments as they evolve. Tomorrow, Friday, promises to be another special edition of the show. Until tomorrow, it's bye for now.